Let's talk about somebody who's got everything figured out and all together. LaVar's guy, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson enters this year with the Cleveland Browns, and he's got a lot to prove. And apparently, he's seen some of the rankings on him. Chris Sims, I believe, had him 24th amongst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So Deshaun Watson has seen those rankings. He's heard that stuff, but he's not bothered. He thinks it actually means it's a good thing. Let's take a listen.
Each and every fan, each and every media person, they want to see me at a level that I'm capable of doing. So that's the standard. And so I got to make sure I hold myself to it. So it's not a bad thing. It's not anything like that. I don't get involved with, people trying to rate me some, places where, they think I'm at the bottom of the list. It is what it is. If I was at the bottom, no one would talk about me. So obviously, if anyone is talking about me and going to continue to talk about me, then I must be pretty damn good.
Or,
technically, he is at the bottom of the list, which is why he was asked.
Or you're making a hell of a lot of money being at the bottom of the list.
or people are talking about you because you're into weird stuff. I don't know. There's other reasons why people have talked about him. He started 12 games since 2020. Like, kind of a problem.
Is that it?
Yeah. Like, kind of a problem. I mean,
I knew he's missed time. I didn't know it was that few.
Yeah.
But when you put it that way, it does sound a little bit ridiculous. I mean, again, obviously we're beating a dead horse. Everyone knows the history of what's happened. But I don't think if we go 10 years from now, like this will be a case study in some NBA class on, probably how this doesn't work out, but of what not to do. You gave a guy, after not playing for a year with double-digit allegations, lawsuits against him, after not playing, $230 fully guaranteed $1 million. Like, in what world does that happen?
Ours.
And then even since then, to your point, he's played, 12 games?
Started
12 games.
Yeah.
At some point, again, people who try to make this season seem like it's a make-or-break year for Deshaun Watson obviously don't understand the financial obligation the Browns are under with him. This is not a make-or-break year. Next year is not a make-or-break year. Unless they literally want to take on the greatest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL and probably for the foreseeable future, the next 2-3 decades, there is no way in my mind this next year, or even, I guess you could maybe say the following, but it's not until 3 years from now where you could say it's a make-or-break year because of the financial obligation the Browns are under with Deshaun Watson.
I say make-or-break in a different way, and I think that make-or-break year for him has already passed. He's broken what people, in my estimation, that paid him the money that they paid him. He hasn't lived up to it. And listen, it's guaranteed money. He hasn't played very much, and it's broken. I don't see it changing. When you've been removed for as long as he has been, it's competitive enough. It's like, I don't know the percentage. You might know a Q. I don't know the percentage of guys that are able to make it into the league as a quarterback and further as a starting quarterback. It's a very, very, very minute percentage. To think that you're actually able to be away from the game as long as he has been and played as sparingly as he has played, to think that he's just going to come back and set the world on fire, he's not. Can he come back and be maybe a formidable quarterback, a serviceable starting quarterback? Probably so. There's some aspects of it where at the time that he's played, you've seen some glimmers of the possibilities of hope for him to be a franchise quarterback, somewhat like he was when he was in Houston. But I think that's a pipe dream to think that this guy's going to be an elite QB in the National Football League. So make or break, he's getting paid. If we're saying make or break him be on the roster, I get that. But if we're talking him as a player and what he's going to accomplish as a player, I just find that to be, it's hard to convince myself, that he's going to be like all of a sudden, all of this time he's missed, that he's going to come back and set the world on fire. I don't see it. I don't see it happening.
Like, I understand, like, they made the move because at one time he was, one of the top, as far as if you were going to build your franchise around a quarterback, he would be the guy. He would be one of the guys, like your top 5 list. Like, he would be a young guy.
I'm
that
not
would make
necessarily sure I would go down that road.
Well, no, but
I think he's had some good seasons.
His 2018 to 2020 years, you'd be hard pressed not to put him in that category.
It was really
top
promising.
5. I think he had some statistical.
Bro, he passed for almost 5,000 yards in 2020.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm saying
it was a bad season for them, but I mean, you can't take that away from him. That's the hard part is like, can he ever be that player that he once was when he went to 3 Pro Bowls?
Yeah, I just.
By the way, the stats are, so of the 0.01% that get drafted, I believe this is coming from high school, right? So high school football players, 0.01%, I believe, because the stats are like 7.3 go on to play in college at some point. Of that, the top 1.6% go on to have a shot. Of that 0.01% get drafted. And then of those draft picks, only 30% will ever make an NFL roster.
Of the 0.01%.
Of the 0.01%. Yeah. So then if you break it down positionally, it's obviously even fewer.
That's why
that's ridiculous.
That's why I didn't try for the NFL, because I was like, you know what, these numbers just aren't fair. It's too skewed. I'm just not even going to participate.
I'm sorry, you can't convince me of those numbers that a guy that hasn't played as much as he has not played for as long as he has not played for can just come back into a league where those percentages are so minute and be a guy. It should already, if we're being honest, there should already been a guy that was in place that, and I mean, golly, like, look at Flacco. Look at what he did. Bro, they put a guy in place that was serviceable enough to get them to where he got them to.
Joe Flacco and Baker Mayfield have been better Browns quarterbacks than Deshaun Watson, and neither's there. Both of them. And
to that point, Baker Mayfield went and did more in Tampa Bay. You got rid of him for this ginormous contract, which you wouldn't have had to pay Baker Mayfield as much as you paid Deshaun Watson. And Baker Mayfield has produced more during the course of this period of time of the switch up than what Deshaun Watson has generated.
Do you remember?
I love Baker, dude.
Do you remember at the time wasn't the contract, the numbers being thrown out with Baker Mayfield going to that funny? It was
$120 million.
Yeah, it was like a 4-year, $120 million.
I bet you they wish they would have did it now.
Yeah.
I bet you they wish they would have tackled that nut now versus the one they gave to Deshaun Watson. Wait, let me take that back. Pause. I bet you they would have tackled that contract rather than the one that they did with Deshaun Watson. You got to be careful in your wording these days with certain people. You know
do you think that Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco said that he did want to come back, like he loved Cleveland. Do you think part of the reason he wasn't brought back is because they were maybe concerned that maybe it would be a little bit awkward that Deshaun Watson would feel a certain kind of way that guy who did all of that with your guys and your roster, because you couldn't, like, that maybe there was
on the field.
Yeah, like maybe there was a little bit of awkwardness behind that, because they brought in Jameis Winston, and you've already heard Mary Kay Cabot say they're not going to be hesitant. If Deshaun comes out and he struggles early on, they're not going to be hesitant to go to Jameis Winston at some point.
Dude, all I know is I still can't believe they've got Jameis as a backup. Again, I can't reiterate that enough. That's like, he should be starting somewhere. The fact that he's a backup in Cleveland, I understand it's a great situation. You know, Watson's had injury issues, so all those things line up for being in a good situation to go in and succeed and win. But you can't tell me that he couldn't be on another roster right now starting, or at least competing for a starting job. That's tough.
If Zach Wilson is starting and competing for
a
start job in Denver.
Las Vegas? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. People might take issue with that or want to criticize me for saying that. I'm just saying that Jameis Winston has too much ability to be sitting as a backup. That makes no sense to me right now.
I would love to see an over-under on number of starts Jameis Winston gets this year.
Versus Deshaun Watson.
Well, just period. Because
I would love to see it versus Deshaun Watson. How many starts? If you had to guess right now, how many games will Deshaun Watson start for the Cleveland Browns versus Jameis Winston? What would you say?
I think he starts more than Jameis, but I'll put.
No, I don't.
I think Deshaun Watson starts less than 12 games this year.
I don't. I think he starts over 12, and I think he has a big year. I think Cleveland's going to be a really, really good team this year. I'm telling you, I've looked at the roster. Like
I've heard you say this about them before.
Well, he also got hurt, and even last year they still made us a playoff team, right?
And you know what you might end up doing? Saying the same exact thing.
Damn.
Because eventually it's going to hit.
What's your problem, Bar?
It's not going to hit.
It is
Cleveland.
It's going to hit, man.
I mean, you're glass half full on this one, and I get it.